Morning, all. You know, it's early in the season. I'm aware of how early it is in the season. I still wanted to take a look at some slow starts, some good starts, and then we can have the debate over which of these good starts and bad starts will be sustained and which ones we'll be quickly forgetting about. And there's plenty we'll quickly be forgetting about. I've done it with both teams and with players. Cold teams, hot players, cold players, and we are just getting into, it's not about their physical appearance either. So I apologize for anybody who went, hot players? No, we're talking about statistics. Just settle it down. So on the cold team side of things, we again have the Oilers. They're 0-2 to start the season. I don't take it the same as the start last year. Last year, they looked lost. This year, I really think part of it is in June, you're playing against the Florida Panthers in Game 7. You're that close to a Stanley Cup. Now it's October. The turnaround time between losing in the playoffs and starting the regular season is shorter for the team that loses in the final than for any other team that loses in the playoffs. And I think it lingers. And I think that's why Connor McDavid was like, nope, we're not talking. No, last year's gone. Forget last year. Because it does kind of linger, right? So the Oilers have made a lot of changes as well. So those are two factors that I think are hurting the Oilers. But the more concerning side is you've got Skinner. He went in, did not have a good start. Pickard last night, I don't think was a difference maker either. One thing that stays in the back of my mind when I'm watching some of these games is that it's not that the goaltender's bad, and this is a conversation we've had on the channel before. It's that they're not making those ridiculous saves. You're not watching going, wow, how did he stop that? So it is not that a player is playing poorly in net. It's usually that, you know what, that goal there, that's a good goal, but maybe it would have been stopped by Vasi. Maybe it would have been stopped by one of those better goaltenders, right? So there are times where statistically a goaltender might be okay, but again, they're not making those fantastic saves. Maybe they don't have to. In the case of the Oilers, I think there's a lot of blame to go around right now, but it's an 0-2 start. The loss last night against Chicago was a bit of a shocker, and that might wake them up. That might be exactly what they needed. The Vancouver Canucks are 0-2. I really think they took their foot off the gas in the first game against Calgary. I also think Philadelphia is a really tough team to play against. But now the schedule is working against the Canucks a bit too, because now they're going to that East Coast swing, which at times isn't great for them. And so Vancouver, I do have some level of concern. I have a little more trust in Lankinen as a goaltender than Shilov's, at least at the NHL level. Just the resume is there. But for Vancouver, there's some new players there too, and I feel like that's... I don't want to just say it's an excuse, because on some level, I think it comes across that way. A lot of teams are dealing with having new players in the lineup, and some of them are doing very well. But I don't think you can undersell just how much of a difference it can make to a team to have 4 or 5 brand new guys in the lineup. I do hope that Vancouver makes a change on the blue line, and they bring somebody in, whether that's from here in Abbotsford or if they're able to make a trade. The good thing with Vancouver that keeps me from being like, that feeling of, oh, here we go again, isn't there, because Patrick Allvin's been pretty good at adjusting where adjustments need to be made, and he's been very creative in terms of making the trades the team needs to make. So if they continue on this path, I have no doubt that Patrick Allvin will be on the phone, and he'll figure something out. Colorado's 0-2 to start the season. For Colorado, they need the saves that they're not getting. They've had 8 goals. Defensively, there's some issues there too, but it's an excellent defense that they have, so that's going to have to tighten up at least a little bit. They're just going to have to protect the net that much more. Georgiev, of course, is in a contract year, so this is the worst possible time for him to be having issues, and we'll talk about Georgiev again. But for the Colorado Avalanche, the question becomes, how many games do you go before Chris MacFarland says, you know what, I gotta change something here, and changes are made. They did pick up Kakinen on waivers, so maybe Capo gets a start in the next game. We shall see. Nashville's 0-2 start. Mildly concerning. I don't have Stamkos on the board. Stamkos had an opportunity last night. He just got absolutely robbed. So the opportunities are there. They did outplay Detroit in large swaths of that game last night. and they almost completed the comeback against Dallas. The problem, of course, is they were behind 4-1 against Dallas before starting that comeback. So I don't have a lot of concern with Nashville, but again, a couple weeks from now, if it continues on this path, there may be some concern there. So we'll go over to the teams off to the hot starts. And Montreal's 2-1. I think Montreal is showing that they're going to make you work for it this year. And I think that shutout victory over Toronto, that was kind of a statement for Montembeault and for the team in front of him. And we'll get into, I think we'll get into Montreal in a video not too long from now if this continues. I think it'll definitely warrant a video just on the Montreal Canadiens. But this could be the year that Montreal is above 500 and they're contending for a playoff spot, and it's fun to watch. New Jersey's 3-1, two of their wins against Buffalo, of course, in Prague. But I thought their win last night against Washington was a good one, and I really think that the New Jersey Devils are going to win their share of games this year. They should be a playoff team and may very well be a contender. It's been definitely the topic of conversation a lot. If Markstrom can have more of the good games and fewer of the poor games, you're in shape. If not, then we'll definitely have something to talk about at that point. Utah's 3-0 start has been a lot of fun to watch. I don't think they're going to score 5 goals a game all year, just throwing that out there, but their attack is good. You can just see with the team out there that they're having fun. There's no pressure on Utah, and we'll talk about another team that has no pressure as well, and that's something I think is helping Montreal. There really isn't any pressure on them to succeed, but Utah's having fun. They're on the road, and this could end up being a really good season for this franchise. And this is part of the reason why when they moved from Arizona, I thought, man, just because last night I was even thinking about it when they won that game in New York, 6-5 in overtime. I thought, like, what a good story this could have been for Arizona if they'd got the building, and now they're off to a 3-0 start. But they didn't get the building. They get moved to Utah, and they're off to a 3-0 start in Utah. So I'm enjoying it. I did admit I'm on the bandwagon a little bit, and so we'll see how far this goes. Calgary's 2-0 start. Again, no pressure. None. And you can see it in the way they're playing. I think they're really enjoying playing together. I think that this is a team that's going to be dangerous because there's no pressure on them. So is it sustainable? Probably not. But it's going to be fun while it lasts, I think, for the Flames and for their fans. So now we'll get into the individual players. And Dylan Guenther, 5 goals in 3 games. Absolutely insane numbers from Guenther. His shot tells you, and his contract tells you, that he is very talented. And he is going to score his share of goals this year. I don't think a Rocket Richard trophy is in the offing just yet. But I think a 40-goal season, yeah, he can get there. That's just 35 more goals in 79 games. I think he can do that since he's got 5 goals in 3 games. Utah's making it look relatively easy to score right now. I don't think that's going to stay that way. And yes, I am sad too that I don't have Utah logo magnets, but they don't really have a logo at this point. It's just a word mark. And so, yeah, looking forward to them having that Yeti logo and being able to put the Yeti on the board, because that's what it's going to be. Let's be honest, right? So Paul Cotter's been quite the story for New Jersey. In 4 games, he has 4 goals and an assist for 5 points. I do think that if you're playing fantasy hockey, Cotter would be a good pickup for a simple reason. New Jersey was talking up Cotter before we got to the actual exhibition games and then the regular season, where Sheldon Keefe was very impressed with Paul Cotter's work ethic and his talent. So if Keefe's going to give him prime minutes, Cotter, I don't think a goal per game is where he's going to end up at the end of the year, but could he end up with 25 goals, 60 points, something like that? Yeah, I think he could. Cotter's a guy that I liked in Vegas, but he was stuck behind a lot of other really talented players. He needed a change of scenery, goes to New Jersey, and it's worked out really well for him thus far. Jonathan Huberdeau, the reason I'm wearing the Calgary jersey, of course, they're off to the good start, and Huberdeau's on the board. In the 2 games they've played, he has 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points. We know from Florida that this guy can play. We know how well he can play, and maybe this is the year things finally click for him in Calgary. And it would be really interesting to see that happen, because in the event that Jonathan Huberdeau starts playing the way that he did in Florida and gets onto that 100-point pace and stays there, then you may very well be talking about Calgary being a contender for a wild card spot. Their goaltendings look good, and I know how early it is. But still, Huberdeau's looked good. There was a little bit of luck involved in one of those goals last night, but you got to be lucky to be good and good to be lucky. Teuvo Teravainen has been everything Chicago could have asked for and more so far. 3 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. He has chemistry with Bedard. It was pretty obvious during the one preseason game of theirs that I watched that was the plan. And just looking at the stats, you could see that Teravainen and Bedard was a duo they were looking at. And it's worked. It's worked so far. Bedard's point totals are relatively high as well at this point. I think he has a goal and 4 assists for 5 points. I didn't put him on the board because we know how good Bedard is, right? So, yeah, Teravainen, I think, has benefited from going back to Chicago thus far. We'll see how long it lasts. I had to put Elias Lindholm up here as I had serious doubt and a furrowed brow about how much money Boston was giving Lindholm, for the simple reason that Lindholm didn't look great this past season in Calgary and then Vancouver. He looked good in the playoffs for Vancouver, but the previous season in Calgary wasn't fantastic either, so I wasn't sure that the amount of money and the contract length was going to work. But so far, he's fit in really well. 3 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Elias Lindholm looks the best right now in Boston that he has since he was playing in Calgary with Monahan and Gaudreau, and they were one of the best lines in the league. So whatever Lindholm's doing in Boston, whatever flavor of Gatorade they're giving him on the bench, keep it up. Lindholm has been really it's been a seamless transition for Lindholm into the lineup. And it again highlights that, yes, some teams will struggle with new players. Some teams thrive with new players. It depends on the player and the situation. On the cold side, McDavid kind of has to be here. He has 1 assist in the first 2 games for Edmonton, and he's a -3. Now, the 6-0 loss against Winnipeg is going to blow up almost everybody's stats in Edmonton, right? But McDavid will get it together sooner than later. He is still going to be one of the top point producers in the NHL. I have no doubt that there's nobody right now looking at a fantasy team and going, yeah, this McDavid guy's only got a point. I'm gonna trade him. That's it. I'm done. Not happening. Austin Matthews, no points so far in 3 games. He's a +2. But Matthews is generating opportunities. In that game last night, there were plenty of opportunities he had. And the concern is never when a player is cold. It's when they're cold and they're not getting to the net. And you can see that frustration. They're snapping sticks and all that fun stuff. Matthews is not at that point. I don't think he'll get there. I think the curse was that before their first game against Montreal, one of the guys on the Sportsnet panel said, well, Matthews is going to get a hat trick tonight. He's known for his hot starts. And I thought, now Matthews is going to get off to a cold start. Thanks. There you go. So people watch me expecting me to jinx people. I watch TV and go, well, he just jinxed him there. And here we are. Matthews, no points in 3 games. But the good news is the Leafs have won 2 of those 3 games. And they've looked pretty good. So that takes some of the pressure off Matthews when his team is winning the games. So he can say, well, yeah, I didn't get the points, but I'm a positive. I'm playing well defensively, and I'm getting opportunities. So there you go. If Matthews is watching, there you go. I gave you your soundbite. Georgiev's .680 save percentage is troubling. And it's not troubling because, well, he was great before these 2 games, and these 2 games have not been great. It's that the way they lost in the playoffs this past spring, goaltending was definitely part of the issue. And there's been discussion about, Georgiev is in his contract year, so he's a UFA next summer. And so the question Colorado has to be asking themselves is, all right, so is this the guy that we're going to want to sign to, a 5 or 6 year or 8-year extension in net, or are we going to want to look in another direction? So the pressure, I don't think, is as much on the Avs as it's on Georgiev to make sure that he's showing them, here's what I can do, and you guys should sign me to this big long-term extension. Not to mention, not just like Georgiev with the extension, but, you've got Annanen's there as well. And so, yeah, we'll see how everything turns out. But for Georgiev, there is some pressure there to show that the playoff run that was very inconsistent and how he's played early in the season, it's a blip. It's not a big deal, and he's going to get it back together. And then the last name on the board is Verhaeghe. Verhaeghe, a -3 in Florida's first 3 games and no points. He generated opportunities last night. He's generated opportunities in every game he's played. There will be talks about the contract. that, well, now he's got the big contract, so he's going to have to live up to it. The thing is, the contract kicks in next year, so the contract shouldn't be an issue right now. And, I mean, for Verhaeghe, he's a very good goal scorer, but almost every goal scorer can go through droughts. I have no doubt that Verhaeghe gets it together. I don't know if he equals last year's totals, though. I don't know if Verhaeghe's going to equal last year's totals. And so we'll see. Maybe he's going to be a 25 goal scorer this year rather than, getting over 30. But it is still very early. I just wanted to make a video on stats this early in the season and talk about it with all you fine people on the internet, because it's never too early to just look at where teams are at and, which ones are going to turn it around. So, which of the hot starts on the board do you think are sustainable? And which of the cold starts on the board do you think mean that this player or this team is not going to be what was expected of them before the season started? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.